Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Courtney Tiffany. I am an author and a divine feminine priestess. And today I wanted to come on and talk to you about Awen. What is Awen? How can we work with this creative energy of Awen and kind of give you a glimpse of just some personal experiences and what I've been going through. And so let's get started. So for me, 2022 has been a very it's been a difficult year. 2020 was not that bad for me personally. I published my first book. I published a book in 2021. I was growing my business. I opened up my goddess temple, and there was a lot happening and going on. And I was at that time in this divine flow, in what I call Awen. And 2022 has kind of been a year, and it's honestly taken me till September to realize that I've been burnt out, that I've kind of removed myself from this like divine flow and divine inspiration. And so based on my personal experiences, I kind of wanted to talk to you today about how you can get back into that flow, how you can get back into that interconnectedness and connecting with your higher self and Awen and that creative spirit. Cerridwen, maybe because it's spooky season, but Cerridwen has popped back into my life, and I've really felt called to share this message with you today. So last year, I think I already did a video on Cerridwen, and I've talked about this book by Christopher Hughes, but he paints a really great picture of what Awen is. And Awen is essentially the potion, the brew that Cerridwen created in her cauldron, in her vessel. It was that creative force that kind of moves all things. And I probably can't explain it as good as Christopher Hughes, so I'm just going to read his definition of what Awen is and how this kind of inspired me and how I think about it. He says, Awen as the creative, transformative force of divine inspiration that sings in praise of itself. It is an eternal song that sings all things into existence and all things called to the Awen inwardly. Look at my copy of my book. My dog destroyed it. I feel like I have to personally apologize to Christopher Hughes. Anywho, but this book, I've marked it up, so I'm keeping it. I think of Awen as this river. And if you've been in the goddess temple, we did a guided meditation with this last year that I released probably around September, October again. This seems to be Cerridwen's time of year for me personally, when she most appears in my life. And I did this guided meditation, and the way that I think of it is this divine flow, right? This divine inspiration. It is, I like to think of it as a river. And for me, it was like stepping into the river, stepping into the creative forces of Awen and letting it flow through me, past me, around me, and just kind of being soaked up in it. As a creative person, Awen is kind of like being in flow. It's when everything just comes naturally and you're just constantly creating, and you're creating from this place of joy. And that's when you know you're connected with Awen, when you're in that divine flow, when you're in that, you're just, everything inspires you, everything is a muse, everything is just like you are just taking life by the horns, and you're just like sucking the nectar out of life. And for me, it's like I unconsciously like took this step out of Awen. I took this step away from divine inspiration. I made excuses like, oh, the goddess just isn't calling me. She's not around. She doesn't want to talk to me. But obviously I know that's not the truth. Like, I know deep down, right? Like the goddess, like the divine is all around us. We are constantly surrounded by divine, by source, by higher spirit. It's just a matter of tuning into that, right? Tuning our dials into that frequency. And because I kind of took this step. This is what 2022 has been for me. Like, I feel like I took this unconscious step out of Awen. I started working full time. My life just got crazy hectic, and I felt like I had to divide my spiritual self with like my work self, my life, my like everything kind of got separated. And as I separated everything, I took that step out of Awen. I took that step out of divine flow. And as a creative person, it's been really hard to find inspiration, like to actually sit down and work on my craft. I have 3 books that I've started writing, but none of them have been finished because I don't feel connected. There's been a lot of stagnation for me this year. There's been a lot of overthinking. There's been a lot of resistance. It's all about, it's like everything has become a mental game. So let's talk about how you know when you're in flow, when you're connected to Awen. I wanted to read one more passage out of Cerridwen by Christopher Hughes. And this says, the attainment of Awen produces not only a profound depth of poetic inspiration, but it brings about this immense sense of oneness with all things. There is a sense here that those who move within the streams of Awen have attained a degree of illumination that is akin to godhood, or at the very least implies a transcendence. So I can say from my own personal experience, when I am connected to Awen, when I have stepped into that divine river, that flow of inspiration, that creative force, everything becomes easy. I'm able to create from a place of ease. I'm able, to just look around and anything in the world can be inspiring, right? Like I could just look out my window and see a dove pass by and I'm like, oh, Aphrodite is with me. Like it's finding joy in everything. And when you're connected, when you have that achievement of Awen, right? It is like this interconnectedness. You just see the threads and how everything is being like interwoven together, and it's living from this place, right? And it's almost like living from this place in connection with your higher self, like fully embodied. And it's divine and it's amazing. And it's also temporary. Like we have to be honest, like life goes in cycles. Like we can't constantly be connected to source all the time because life takes us out of it. At least this has been for me. And I feel like anybody who says like, oh, I have transcended, like I will always be in connection with source, like they might be neglecting other things in their life. Like we are human beings first. And for me, 2022 has it's been about this finding and achieving this balance between being human and, having a family and raising kids and also being spiritual and also doing my devotional practices, also living from a place of alignment and, and then also dealing with the real world and going back to work and dealing with the community. And it's this balance. And so how do we know we're in Awen? How do we know? And like I said, it's all about flow. It's all about ease. When you're connected with that divine source, when you're connected with Awen, you can make things from a place of joy, from a place of harmony. You're just constantly being inspired. And when you get pulled out of Awen, how do you know that you're pulled out of Awen? How do you know that you're not connected, right? Well, you're probably feeling disconnected. You're having a hard time talking to the divine, being connected with the divine. Things are a struggle. There's stagnation. Things can't happen. There's a lot of confusion in your head. You might be overthinking a lot. There's resistance, procrastination. I know for me, it's like, okay, like I constantly use the excuse this year. I will create when I feel inspired to create, right? Because I don't want to create things that I don't make, that aren't made from like the highest place, right? Like my highest good. I don't want to create things that I'm not passionate about. They don't turn out to be the best, right? My best work. So putting things off and, or even just sitting down to try and create something. And it's just a struggle. Also escapism, right? Using Netflix, using, anything really to escape, to ignore your creative work, to ignore your daily practice, to ignore, that spiritual side of self. And you're just out of balance. Your energy's off. Fatigue physically, like I've been so tired this year, and it's taken me, a good 9 months to realize that I was burnt out. I was doing way too much. And so how can you take a step back? Well, how can we get back in tune with Awen? How can we get back in to that energy of divine inspiration, of the creative life force? It's really about taking a step back from everything, taking a step back from social media, from responsibilities and obligations, to make space, to make enough space in our day, to make enough space in our life, to invite in that creative inspiration, right? I know for me, it was like I had this long running to-do list and there was no way. It was like, and I titled it The Impossible To-Do List. There's no way I was going to get through everything this year. Like I can't, like in 12 months, like there was just so much work that I wanted to do and accomplish. And even just looking at like this gargantuan to-do list was exhausting and it was intimidating. And so it's like, okay, how can I prioritize? How can I let go of some things, right? Because whenever we want to bring something new into our lives, we have to make space for it. So if we want to connect with Awen, if we want to live in this river of ease and flow, then we have to make space for it, right? And a lot of times that's going to be doing less. And that's not something that our culture really knows how to do, because we're all about the hustle and bustle, right? We're all about, everyone's got like their full-time job and then everyone has a side gig. Everyone has their creative projects that they're working on, their pastimes, their, whatever it is, side businesses. And it's a lot. It can be a lot, but how can we find the balance? How can we merge the physical and the spiritual together? And for that, I want to read another passage by Christopher Hughes. And, he talks about standing in the center of Awen, standing in the center of the cauldron. But it says, your responsibility is to shine, to take the seeds that Cerridwen offers you, plant them, nurture them, and share them with the world, to be the inspiration that this world will always need and want. From the blinding rays of Awen within you, you begin to glow, becoming a representation of Awen itself. So inviting in, making space, and then inviting in Awen, inviting in that creative force, and just listening, right? Just getting really still and, okay, where is this leading me? What am I feeling into? What am I being called to? What do I want to learn more about? What do I want to explore? And letting that divine force lead the way and guide you. And that will never steer you wrong. And for me personally, it's a place that I want to get back to. It's a place that is filled with just so much ease and love and compassion, having compassion for yourself, right? And leading from a place of heart and not being so worried and over analytical, and so in your head. And I think that's why Cerridwen called me to do this. I have been slowly trying to make more space in my life for the spiritual, to get back into my daily practices and my routines, and creating ceremony and ritual in my life, because that helps me connect with the divine. And the more that we sink into that energy, the more we let Awen flow through us, right? The more space we make, right? The more she can flow through. She, he, it. The more Awen can flow through. So if we just think about either just turning on the tap, right? Just opening it up just a little bit and just letting it, like, letting Awen just kind of slowly drip into you, just slowly trickle down, okay? And just even asking Cerridwen, calling on Cerridwen for a sign, for divine inspiration, for transformation, because that's what she is, right? As goddess of the cauldron, she is the goddess of transformation, of this creative life force, right? Awen bubbles up through her cauldron. It holds the essence of the universe inside. And, like in Christopher Hughes's definition, it calls unto itself. Like it sings its own praises, because it is that transformative force of divine inspiration.